Good evening, dear friends, to our Thursday evening sharing on the Christian mystics. I believe it's 11 in the series now, and it would be good for you to share the next 30 minutes with me. But first, can we just spend a little time just coming into the presence of love and allowing our hearts sense the peace and the stillness of this place. Be still. And just focus on your in-breath. Breathe in, hold it, and now breathe out and relax. Just be aware of the great Christian mystics around you. And we begin with the beautiful prayer of entry by none other than the great Teresa of Avila, a Spanish Carmelite nun who became one of the world's greatest spiritual teachers. And you can recite this prayer after me quietly to your heart. I cross the bridge into the silent bliss of my castle. I close the drawbridge and forbid all outside influences from entry into this holy place, a place that is my soul. Here in my castle, I am alone with God, and under God's light and protection and companionship, I discover the depth and the beauty of my soul. I embrace the power of prayer. I open myself to divine guidance. I surrender myself to become as a channel for grace, healing, and service as God directs my life. Let's stay with those words, as God directs my life. And in the silence of this time together, my prayer is that the spirit of divine oneness will reawaken within your heart and mind an awareness of the I am presence of God within. Be still now. And this evening, our focus is primarily on another great mystic, the great Thomas Aquinas. And this is what Thomas has to say. God is most joyful and is therefore supremely conscious. We hear a lot about consciousness today, but does anyone connect consciousness and joy? For Aquinas, joy is not just our noblest act, but a birthplace of consciousness. Because God is most joyful, God is most conscious. The same would clearly hold for us. And the more joy we tap into, the greater our consciousness. Can we, when we want more self-awareness and conscious understanding, reach for joy? Can we birth a culture that puts joy first? And again he says, God delights. God is always rejoicing and doing so with a single and simple delight. In fact, it is appropriate to say that love and joy are the only human emotions. emotions that we can attribute literally to God. Aquinas elevates love and joy as the only human emotions directly connected to God. Not revenge, not anger, not sorrow, not even regret, and not desire. How does this correspond with your image of God or divinity or the Creator? Do you see God always rejoicing with a single and simple delight? Do you practice rejoicing with a single and simple delight? Do you seek God to rejoice with the divinity? Does your culture? Valid questions. And again, Aquinas says, every love makes the beloved to be in the lover, and the lover in the beloved. The lover is not satisfied with a superficial apprehension of the beloved, but strives to gain an intimate knowledge of everything pertinent to the beloved, so as to penetrate into the very soul. It is perhaps surprising to read a medieval mystic and theologian write in such profound and erotic language about love. True lovers strive for a mutual inness, so that lover merges with beloved, beloved with lover. Love drives us beyond superficial knowledge of the beloved to an intimate, in-depth knowledge, a penetration to the very soul of the beloved. Have you had such a sensual, spiritual experience of love? And again, Aquinas says, 4 proximate effects may be ascribed to love, namely, melting, enjoyment, languor, and fervor. Aquinas is saying that the first effect of love is melting. Do you find that coldness, distance, indifference, all are melted by the experience of love? Next comes enjoyment. Joy follows from love. Mutual enjoyment between lover and beloved. And next comes languor, a desire for one's beloved when the lover is absent. How real is that? How deep is one's languor? And finally comes fervor, zeal, fire, energy are all aroused by love. It appears love truly takes us to our soul's depths, where melting joy, languor, and fervor are born and nurtured. Think of a time when you first fell in love with your first love. It might have been a schoolyard crush, or it might have been a love you found late in life. You melt, don't you? Literally melt. I remember my first love before I entered the monastery back in '66. I met this love, well, it was pre-arranged by my mom and her mom. Both the same age, both 16. And you melt. You have this inner longing to be together. And when you're absent, your heart grows strong. But the thoughts, the loving thoughts and emotions, you melt into the moment. Aquinas says the freezing or hardening of the heart is a disposition incompatible with love, while melting denotes a softening of the heart, whereby the heart shows itself to be ready for the entrance of the beloved. If then the beloved is present and possessed, pleasure or enjoyment ensues. Aquinas is speaking of the melting effect of love, the softening of the heart that opens us to others. No love can follow without this softening, and it applies to every relationship, romantic, filial, and divine. In our time, has patriarchy been good at teaching men how to soften their hearts? Might a great deal of melting be in store? Aquinas promises that enjoyment and pleasure ensue when the heart is ready for the beloved to enter. But that only happens when melting occurs. Hardness of heart is incompatible with love. Wow, so beautifully said. And Thomas says, but if the beloved is absent, two passions arise, namely, sadness at its absence, which is denoted by languor and an intense desire to possess the beloved, which is significant by fervor. Absence arouses sadness and a yearning to possess. Thus languor and fervor are triggered by love. These sound like very powerful forces, powerful energies. How adept are we at tapping into them, using them as our fuel, our fire. Look for sadness and a yearning to possess, for languor and fervor in your own soul. Look for the fire and the zeal. Good things can come of reconnecting to these deep feelings. When we lose this sense of fervor or zeal, we become couch potatoes, or we fall into a depression. We can easily turn to addictions to fill the void in our soul. Wise words from Thomas Aquinas. And he goes on to say, love is cause of all that the lover does. Love is the cause of both pleasure and sorrow. What does he mean by that? Do you agree with this? Does love so take us over that it becomes a cause of everything we do? How great is that? What are the dangers in this? Are you and I lovers in all we do? Lovers of whom? For whom? Whom are we serving? How does our work derive energy and fire from this love? And who else is benefiting? Can we do better, purifying our love? And who else is benefiting? Can we purify our work? This teaching is about bringing eros to everything we do, for eros is the passion for living that Aquinas celebrates. And looking deeply at sorrow, Aquinas has learned that even sorrow happens because of love. The deepest loss is directly related to our deepest love. So what has given us great joy? Thus it is love that undergirds all our deepest experiences in life, the negative as well as the positive. Love causes pleasure, and love causes sorrow. Love is the common thread of all life's adventures. And Thomas Aquinas says, while pleasure can be entire and perfect, sadness is always partial. And wow again to modern ears, Aquinas sounds almost naive, proposing that only pleasure can be entire and perfect, while depression is temporary. What would he make of our modern world, so steeped in cynicism, moroseness, and clinical depression? Aquinas lived at a time when people believed goodness and pleasure were more foundational than sadness and woe. Does any Western culture or religion still teach that? But is this not what indigenous peoples demonstrate? I once met a man who was living among indigenous people on an island in the Amazon rainforest. I asked him what they teach him. Joy, he said. They experience more joy in a day than I do in a year. Wow. It makes you want to go to the Amazon to experience this joy. And Aquinas says, hope is about the possible, despair is about the impossible. We despair when we see no way out. Suicide is a yielding to this feeling that there is no way out, to despair. Young people who can see no way out of some oppressive circumstances are often driven to violence and may end up in prison for that reason. Despair is real and very dark. We humans are very adept at seeing the impossible and dwelling on it until it takes over our souls. Those who maintain hope are always looking for possibilities, for angles, for creative solutions, for alternatives. Hope keeps their souls and imaginations alive, and above all, creative. Artists know this. This is their vocation, to tell the truth, but always within the context of the possible. And Aquinas goes on to say, no person is in such darkness as to be completely devoid of divine light. The divine light shines in the darkness and radiates upon all. Aquinas is teaching that we cannot escape the light. Even in the darkest of circumstances, the darkest of the dark nights, the divine light shines and radiates therein, even when we cannot see it. This takes some hard believing, some deep trusting. How are we doing? Can we believe in the light even in the pitch darkness? Can we bring it to life for others? How? And Thomas Aquinas goes on to say, every love causes ecstasy. To suffer ecstasy means to be placed outside oneself. And you can see evidence of that, can't you, when you go to the Vatican in Rome and see Teresa of Avila before the Christ in complete ecstasy in that beautiful statue of marble. The detail, amazing. Aquinas says we suffer ecstasy, we undergo it. Ecstasy is bigger than us, and that is why it affects us so deeply. It transforms us and makes us new. It makes us alive when we are feeling deadened and puts us outside ourselves, beyond our pains and woes and doubts. Where do we find such ecstasy? It comes with every love. A shocking observation. The love of a tree, of a poem, of a flower, of a bird, of a dance, of music, of strangers, of lovers, of relatives, of enemies. Any love whatsoever causes ecstasy. So ecstasy is not rare. It is not rationed. It is everywhere love is. Wow. No wonder Aquinas puts optimism ahead of pessimism. He found love and ecstasy everywhere. And despite the cynicism and rapaciousness of today's society, can you see the abundance of ecstasy in every love? In every love. And finally, Aquinas says in the Song of Songs in chapter 5 we read, "My beloved, you are drunk with love." Those who are drunk are not inside of themselves, but outside of themselves. Those who are filled with spiritual gifts, all their intention is carried toward God. Just as those who hold their mouth to a fountain of wine are drunk, so those who hold their mouth, that is their desire, at the foundation of life and sweetness are drunk. And so they are drunk, since with you there is a fountain of life. Aquinas is endorsing drunkenness here. Time to get high, time to get outside ourselves, time for some ecstasy. This is what mystics do and what mystics teach. Not just any drunkenness, but to be drunk with love, which brings on ecstasy. When were you last inebriated with love? What did it do for you? What did it do for others? When did you last hold your mouth, that is your desire, at the foundation of life and sweetness, and get drunk? It sounds like fun. Getting drunk on the fountain of life. Time for an encore. And now we call it a day there, and we just reflect on what we've read. Let us be still as we come into the presence of love. Let us be still and know that we are loved. We are loved by a Father, Mother God, who embraces us as we are in our vulnerability and availability. And they call us by name to come. Like Aquinas said, to come to the fountain of life and to get drunk on divine love. Just visualize yourself here in our monastery garden, where in the center of the lawn we have a 3-tiered water fountain, where the water gently cascades from one tier to the other and then to the bottom tier. And when you sit and listen on a summer's day, the sound of trickling water is beautiful. It's continuous, it's consistent, and it's gentle. Just visualize the fountain as being a fountain of grace, a fountain of blessing. And as you are there, you see the Christ placing his hands in the fountain of life. And he creates a cup with his hands and places them in the well of the fountain. And he's bringing them to you, his beloved. There's no spillage, for what he collected in his hands is still there, and he brings it to you, and he says, "Take ye and drink the water of life." And he lifts it up to your mouth, and you drink the water of goodness, the water representing the love of God. And suddenly, everything becomes clear for you. You see the beloved. You are in the presence of God. And there is no other desire that can match the intensity of this love that you feel in your heart for the beloved, because it's real, it's tangible, and it's everlasting. There's a melting within you. There's a hunger for more. There is a desire of your soul to embrace the very mystical heart of God. And there is a yearning when you are absent from that love. Just sense the love, the intimacy, the gentleness. And as you look at the hands of the Christ, you feel them with your hands, you touch them, and you sense a sensuality of holding the hands of the Christ. Suddenly, energetic flows of love is rushing through every part of you. You're on fire with the love of God. You're experiencing a spiritual orgasm, total ecstasy. Be still. And know that in this moment, there is no other moment to compare with this moment. For you are in the arms of your first love, the beloved. Relax now. Relax and know that all is well. And this is the intimacy that Thomas Aquinas has shared with us this evening. I pray that feeling lasts a little longer. Nourish it, nurture it, treasure it, and bless you for being here. Namaste, Shalom, Inshallah, Paxet Bonum, Om Shanti, Solo di Carita, Salam Alaikum, and may the intimacy of the beloved stay with you and allow you feel, sense that you are of noble birth, a child of God. Thank you for being here.